Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are actually going on with a Man-Thing review. So not too long ago I managed to acquire Man-Thing and I have taken him to rank 3. I also used one of my 4 Mystic Awakening gems on this guy and took him to Sig 20 just not to leave him hanging at Sig 1. And now we're gonna basically go over my overall thoughts about this guy, what has worked, what hasn't, what he can and can't do, so on and so forth. So first fight, as often, is just kind of like initial damage output test. However, Man-Thing damage output is a bit deceiving in a sense that the fight length is quite long compared to the hit count, because most of the time you're going to be spamming your level 1s and heavy attacks, which don't really generate all that many hits. So he is kind of an opposite to Carnage, where Carnage is just go 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 and the hit counter ramps up incredibly quickly. This guy is quite the opposite, where the time just goes and hit counter hardly climbs up compared to more aggressive champions. That being said, he isn't doing too bad, to be honest. Like, he's not a great mega damage dealer. There's not going to be a huge burst numbers. However, all the little bits in between, fury, poison damage, armor breaks, so on and so forth, do add up, and he ends up with a relatively decent damage. One thing I have to mention right from the bat, that Man-Thing is extremely reliant on Mystic Dispersion, perhaps even more so than Dr. Voodoo, for example, because immediately, as soon as you see any gameplay footage, any CCP reviews, any footage whatsoever that does not have Mystic Dispersion active, pretty much do no justice to Man-Thing. He has to have Mystic Dispersion active. He's designed with Mystic Dispersion in mind, and if you are playing him without Mystic Dispersion, he is merely a shadow of his true self. And anyone who gives you a review or a mock-up of his abilities without using this mastery in particular is merely giving you a glance, an idea of how he is supposed to work. However, it is losing a vast majority of its effectiveness. And yeah. So when you play Man-Thing, you definitely want to make sure you have that Mystic Dispersion active. He's also not really a suicide-friendly champion. Him only possessing bleed immunity, he's not immune to poison, which I think wouldn't be unrealistic kind of expect in a Man-Thing, but still he doesn't have it. And yeah, so that however means that you do want to run him with Mystic Dispersion, no suicides. Additional thing to mention is that Man-Thing is also quite reliant to his signature ability. I did check out how his signature ability scales, and it scales extremely well. It gets basically 2.5 to 3 times more potent on a max sig than it is basically at your entry level. Therefore, he's a champion that if you do commit to him, you have to commit all the way, and you have to sig him to take him to sig 200, especially because you keep spamming your special attacks. That means that Fury is going to be ever present, and you also keep spamming your special attacks. If you're below 50% of the health, that heal is going to be ever present. However, there we can see that it took us 160 hits, which in terms of hit counts is extremely well actually for a rank 3 champion. It's somewhere up there with the best of them. However, it took us a long time just because we had to sit out many level 1 animations. And now we hopped in Act 5. First, we're going to have a generic fight to explain how he works. Basically, with your special attacks, you gain these pustules, which is a buff on opponent that does nothing. I think it lasts for about 15 seconds. And then you can pop them. Once you do pop them, you place an armor break and poison on opponent. The most effective way to pop these is your heavy attack. So your typical fight rotation is going to be get your first level 1, drop it, drop a heavy attack. You're going to be popping these pustules, which will count as a buff being nullified on opponent, and that will in exchange give you a burst of power via Mystic Dispersion Mastery, where you're going to be able to pretty much immediately throw another level 1 or 2 or whichever, get some more pustules on opponent, drop a heavy attack, and rinse and repeat. So most of the fight is kind of go in between your level 1s and heavy attacks with very few actual combos landed on opponent. Now special attacks do a few different things, but the base idea is that all of your special attacks place pustules on opponent. Level 1 places an extra one, and then obviously your goal is to nullify them. Also, level 2 has a chance to nullify up to 2 buffs on opponent per hit, as well as every time you make a contact with the opponent, you have a chance to nullify a buff that they have. It's a 15% chance, I believe. And then level 3 places poison, places pustules, and gives you a fury buff kind of thing. But typically, for most of the fights, you're gonna kind of want to stick to your level 1s, because that is the most optimal way of placing these pustules. Then pop them with your heavy attack, and if you do that, those poison debuffs also have increased potency and you do more damage. And level 2 is just kind of typically used when you push yourself past a bar power from your level 1. Now here we can clearly see that we're having an extremely fun time with this Luke Cage and Resistor node. So any buff heavy opponents, you will have a great time, because you will be able to nullify their buffs, turn them into your own pustules. And basically he works semi kind of like a Morningstar, when he gets a lot of extra damage if opponent in fact does have a lot of buffs, because you can turn them into your pustules and furthermore into poison debuffs. So as many Mystic Champions do, if your opponent is having many buffs, you're gonna have a good time. Now, next I took a fight or two in Variant 2. Even though Man-Thing is not extra large champion, he's still a large champion, which is one of the bigger kind of critiques of the character. You definitely think he's going to be extra large, but no, for whatever reason, he's just not big enough, I suppose. But yeah, in Variant 2, you have this poison vulnerability node, and that is a node you slowly see creeping in more and more in different paths. Also, you can see Acid Wash, which is going to be ever more present node in like map 7, and probably I would be willing to bet on the fact that it's also going to be present in 6.3. So here comes the kind of like a Damocles sword, I suppose, because he does access a lot of poison debuffs very easily. Therefore, he can destroy all the regeneration opponents have and deal a lot of poison damage. At the same time, there are a lot of champions who are immune to poison. There are also a lot of champions who can shrug it off, and that, however, makes Man-Thing more or less a niche champion. He's not somebody you will want to take in a quest as your main attacker and deal with whatever comes your way. Here we can see the vast attack difference. We're fighting somebody like Stun Immune Ultron, for instance. Now, Ultron is a robot, therefore he's immune to poison. Stun immunity means it's not that easy to land heavy attacks on him, and immediately this fight gets turned into a slugfest. Your damage just isn't there, and your special spam isn't there, and without special spam you don't get that fury, and you get a lot more chip damage, because he does not really have any armor, to be honest, and he also doesn't really have the greatest block proficiency. However, he does have a massive health pool. I think it's only second to King Groot, so he is in fact a tank. But yeah, this fight is a stark contrast from what we saw before, and once things don't go his way exactly the way you want them to, the fight is made so much harder. So unfortunately, I do have to say that Man-Thing is a niche champion, and compared to some of the already available champions that we have in the game, he's not the best niche champion. He's not the explosive damage output, no crazy power locks, no power steals, no mega level 2s, no insane amount of utility and versatility like Black Widow Clairvoyant has. Now, he is a fun champion. I had a great time using him. Unfortunately, he is not the top tier endgame champion. I think the highest use he's going to get in the endgame is either going to be in some niche matchups if you happen to have him ranked up for alliance or defense, because I do think he's going to be a fairly annoying defender to face off against, because he's super tanky, has access to poison, so you basically ideally need a poison immune champion to face him. Otherwise you might find yourself in a very hairy situation very quickly, and so on and so forth. So he will in fact be, in my opinion, one of the meta defenders for top alliances as soon as they acquire and rank the guy. It's huge health pool, tankiness, poison, damage mitigation, because the critical hits can't do more damage than the regular hits basically. So yeah, he's gonna be an annoying guy to face, a fun champion to use here and there in some specific situations. He does have some versatility for endgame scenarios, but it's not flatline, it's niche versatility. So unfortunately, I think Man-Thing is one of those champions that kind of got failed by Marvel Contest of Champions. He had so much promise, so many more things could have been different, and the problem is that he would not require that big of a tweak to actually be somebody people should be excited to acquire. He would simply need better stats, bigger damage, because the base mechanics are there, base mechanics are cool and interesting, and if you would increase his damage output by noticeable difference, he still wouldn't be a champion that breaks the game just because of the fact that he relies on poison damage. He's a niche character and you can chip away at him quite aggressively. So yeah, that will pretty much be the summary of Man-Thing's review. I think he's gonna be an annoying defender to face. I think he's definitely gonna find himself a lot on alliance or defense. I think he will have his uses in 6.3 and some other endgame content for sure. Unfortunately, I do not think he's somebody you should particularly aim, seek, try and spend to acquire, because he's far from the best. He is not a god tier champion by any means. The damage over time is not there and many things are lacking. Anyways, that will do for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, let me know, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.